Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. In this episode, we'll be listening to Beyond the Shelfie, partnering with Bookstagram and BookTok creators, a session that was presented at Winter Institute 2026 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
All right, well, welcome everyone. Glad you're here for our afternoon education sessions. We are going to be talking about Beyond the Shelfie, partnering with Bookstagram and BookTok creators. And we're excited. If you could hear us earlier, we're very giddy and really excited to talk to you all about this, something we're passionate about. All right, so we will have a survey at the end of this session, both on the app, and Emma, our reminder for this room, will have paper sessions or surveys as well. This is being audio recorded, so this will be available later on our website at BookWeb and also on Booked, which is our podcast. If you all don't mind silencing your cell phones, you feel free to take pictures, more than welcome to do that. And we will be doing questions after our presentation, so we'll leave time for that, and we will have the mic going around when it's time for that. All right, if you've been through these education sessions already today or throughout the Institute, you've seen this before. These are our antitrust guidelines, just making sure that in our conversations and when we do Q&A that we're not talking about price or pricing policies, boycotts, or dividing up the market. All right, now that that's out of the way, we have our session objectives for this afternoon. So we're going to be looking at locating creators. Who are they? Where can we find them? And making sure that they align with store values and your mission, your goals, and the community. We'll be identifying the steps to develop mutually beneficial creative partnerships. What does that look like when it's going well? Maybe when it's not going as well, how to have that conversation and maybe depart or further that partnership for later. And then understanding different strategies for collaboration across social media platforms. So that's what we'll be tackling today. Here is our agenda, and we'll be talking through these. And like I mentioned before, we'll have the Q&A following. So to kick us off, we're going to do some introductions. So I will start. My name is Courtney Wallace. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager at the ABA. I help with our marketing and social media campaigns. I do Indie Bookstore Day, Indies First, other duties as assigned for there. And I'm also a content creator on the side. So you can, I try. But yeah, no, it's a good experience. And that's kind of what got me into working in publishing and working with indie bookstores is being a content creator. So I'm glad that I can do both. But you can find me. There's my contact on Instagram. So yeah.
Great. Hi, I'm Dr. Denise LaRosa. I am on social media on several platforms, Instagram, YouTube, which is my home. And I just love books. So I'm an education administrator by day and a book influencer by day and night. And it just stems from my love of books and my love of indie bookstores. So I am just so humbled and grateful to be here today.
Oh my goodness. Thanks, Denise. My name is Cassie. I am the Director of Marketing and Social Media at the Novel Neighbor Bookstore in St. Louis, Missouri. And we work with, well, we'll talk about it, but I think that we consider ourselves community builders. We're part of a big community in St. Louis full of folks who are like-minded and passionate and excited. And I think that that's what indie bookstores do best. And I'm really grateful for St. Louis readers. I think they're amazing. And I'm excited to talk about all of the people that we get to engage with these roles.
Hi, everybody. My name is Destiny Hodge. I work at East City Bookshop, and I am the book club coordinator. We have 15 book clubs there. I do not host all 15 book clubs.
She's a prolific reader.
But I do host 5. But I have also been with East City. We opened in 2016, and I've been with the store since then, a few months after it opened. So I've served in a lot of roles at East City, including I was the events coordinator. Now I just work on the events team and help get things organized and such. And like Cassie was saying, I really feel like community is something that we do really well at East City Bookshop, tapping into that and making it work both ways. So I'm really excited to talk to you guys about that today.
Awesome. Thank you all. All right. So first up, finding creators. Hint, they're there. They're not far. You probably know some of them. So they're all around us. So who wants to dive in on what that looking for creators looks like?
I feel like that's a Cassie question.
Okay, I'll take it. So I think that when we are talking about getting quote unquote influencers into our orbit, I think it's really easy to think of an influencer as a person with minimally 500,000 followers on any given platform. And I think that when we are talking about the communities that we are engaging and the readers that you want to get to your store, that's not necessarily what we're going for. It's like, there's like a real quantity game of like the folks who are coming to the events that you're putting on. If they're having a nice time and like 16, 10, 5 different people are posting that they had a wonderful time and you get a bunch of different pieces of collaboration out of that, that's amazing. A lot of the folks who are coming to events are also trying to build their own social media pages. And a thing that I think I'm going to say a million times on this, and I'm sorry to start the broken record now, is like very mutually beneficial relationships. So when you are the indie bookstore and you have access to all of the cool stuff that you do, because I know that you do wonderful things, a lot of times influencers or micro influencers or folks who are trying to get their Bookstagram or BookTok off the ground, they just like want to be able to share that and build that community with you. And so access to those things, knowledge about those things, those are great. And part of finding the creators that you want to work with is building the community that you want to have. And kind of like an if you build it, they will come situation. And from that group, I feel like we've really honed in on who we go to when we want to get a message out, how we want to disseminate information, and kind of we'll talk some of the like influencer events and stuff we do later.
I love that, Cassie. In being on the influencer side, I want to add 2 things. One, you kind of touched on it with the numbers. I think back in the olden days of social media, it was all about the number of follows, right? So what was attracting you to an influencer is, oh my goodness, they've got 20,000 followers. And maybe a humble little page like mine with 1,600 to 2,000 wouldn't seem appealing to you. But I just want to urge that those are actually the sweet spot type of book influencers you want to connect with, because I have a small but oh so loyal following. Like they will latch onto any and everything. And I'm not saying this with arrogance. It's the community, right? They feel really closely connected to me because it's a smaller community. So they're really absorbing all of the content, asking questions, and following through on clicking those links and visiting those bookstores. So definitely don't take for granted those smaller influencers and don't forget about them or just brush them off or put them to the side. And the second piece is authenticity. And I'm super excited because my favorite bookstore to collaborate with, the owner is right here, the illustrious, legendary, amazing Cam Kovac, who has the greatest bookstore here in the Pittsburgh area, completely booked. I digress. With that being said, it's all about being authentic, right? So you're thinking about the identity of your bookstore, the type of books that you are promoting, and the what you believe in and your purpose, and finding influencers who align with that. Just because they have a lot of followers and seem to be, doing so great in the social media realm, you don't want to latch onto them if it's not going to be built on a authentic foundation. It's not going to last. It's not going to be believable.
Yeah, I would co-sign on all of those things. I would also say I think of social media and collaboration as an extension of what you already have. So I started off talking about book clubs, and there's so many folks who are in a book club or who are coming to events and are also online in some capacity. It may be something small, but I think that is just an extension of what you already have. So how are you tapping into that extension? I think another thing I would say is thinking about who is on staff and who is already a part of that community, because to your point about like a smaller following, not necessarily meaning that they don't have influence. If you already have someone who is on your staff, let's say, or is a part of the community, that's already social capital, right? Like they're already in there. It's like, oh, there's that person. There's, Destiny. oh, and she works at East City Bookshop. Like, it's just kind of like you're parlaying that. So I think thinking about your staff members who may have some sort of presence online, even if it is small, and how they're already a part of that community and they have that influence, and people believe them, and people are like, oh, I'll actually come to that event, not just because you said it, but I know that person.
And I would say off of that, your own content creation is also a way of finding the people who want to engage with your store. I, like, way back in the day, had a BookTube account, and I feel like that was like a fun way to like make friends in the early aughts. And now I feel like I fell in love with short form video content and fell in love with talking on with books online, which is exactly what all of these people want to do. They want to have pages and platforms that are successful to talk about books on the internet and share that love. So when we started our store TikTok account, and when we started posting reels on our own Instagram, we naturally found the people who also want to do those things. Building organic and real relationships with those folks has been wonderful. We have a note on here on like hashtags and local tags. Obviously, the hashtag is dying. That being said, it is still in use. I think that like the location tagging function on TikTok and Instagram is very helpful. It is how a lot of the creators locally have found out about many of the events that we have put on, because you can search truly just by saying St. Louis or Webster Groves or DC or Pittsburgh. It'll like pull up other creators in your area, or the algorithm will pull up specific book things. So you'll find folks that way as well. But again, I think it's like, as you grow your page and they grow their pages, then you find the people who are going to be your people and help you get your message across.
I also want to flag something that you were mentioning about, hashtags and tagging and things like that. I feel like the low-hanging fruit is so often overlooked.
1,000%.
So when you're at an event, you don't explicitly say, hey, tag East City Bookshop, right? You just expect that, oh, people will do it. You just have that thought, but no, say it, repeat it. When you are sending out your invites, or if you use Eventbrite or whatever, and you're sending a reminder, oh, you can tag East City Bookshop, or you can contact us here. I think constantly repeating that message and not taking it for granted is something that's really cool as well as let's say we just did a huge pre-order campaign for BK Borison, and there are people getting their books, right? Repost that. Yeah. Put it on your stories. Do it immediately. That's content that's already created for you that you can use. And, that person doing that who may not have followed you, right? It's just, oh, tag EC, I got it from East City Bookshop. But, oh, now you reposted me. I feel like, okay, I'm going to follow you. You're engendering that two-way connection.
Mm-hmm. I'd also add too, like, as getting DMs or direct messages or emails from the company or the store that wants to reach out to that creator, I like it when they're personal, when they look at my feed and say like, oh, we love that you covered X, Y, and Z. Yes. It feels like it's not just a profit or a marketing scheme. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I feel strongly about engaging with the accounts that tag you and participate in your own social media stuff. So if people come to your events, or if you do like a book bedazzling night and somebody posts the book that they bedazzled, you better go in their comments and say how great that book looks. Like, that is important. That is lasting. And it's the stuff that gets dropped because we have a million things to do. But it doesn't have to be you who does it. It just should be someone. And even if it's just like the thing that you do while you're falling asleep.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Do you agree? Yeah.
Oh, 200%. I see a hand up.
Oh,
are we?
We're going to hold. Can you not hear us still?
I was actually just going to make a comment on what you guys were talking about with the hashtag. Oh, we'll do a comment and question section right at the end.
Okay, thank you. All right, on to fostering these long-term relationships. So we kind of touched on this a little bit. So reaching out, you're building that connection, you have influencers and content creators in mind. How do you creatively build that relationship and kind of shift that mindset?
Destiny?
Sure. I think something that we have on here, I don't know if it's, mutual benefit builds trust. I know I just literally read what's on this slide, but I put an asterisk.
Oh, the teacher in me is cringing right now.
Emphasis. But that is, I think sometimes speaking to the busyness, you're so about, okay, we have this event, we have to do this, we have to do that, send this out, send that. Is so one way, where you can think about the smallest things that mean something to a creator or someone who's burgeoning and they're having their page that kind of you might not think are a big deal. I'll give an example. Something as simple as the arcs that we get, right? Like we have so many where there's a deluge, but offering, hey, like we'd love to have you do this. Here are some. I think one of the first photos was from E-City Bookshop, and we had some leftover arcs that we gave to the creators that came. Yeah, there we go. And then their name was on it, and also their tag, their handle. Sorry. So something as simple as that, but with that level of intentionality, that is mutually beneficial. So just thinking through what are the things that I might even take for granted that someone who is a creator might actually want. And I think the other thing I would say is not expecting them to have all the ideas. And I know that that's like a time-consuming thing, but if you have someone on staff who is, marketing or whatever the case may be, or maybe you have, like a lot of us, people who are wearing 85,000 hats, one of those hats really should be to think about that. Think about what you want to actually do, because sometimes, especially as someone who is on Bookstagram, I cringe using the word influencer, but someone who is on Instagram, right? It's like you get a DM or you get an email and it's like, okay, we need this. Tell us what you think. And it's like, dude, I don't have time for that. Tell me what do you have in mind? What do you envision? So I think having ideas when you're reaching out to people as well is very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think when I think of collaboration, I think that this is a wonderful opportunity for that. So I'm wearing the educator hat, and I tend to bring that energy into the book influencer space. And it's important that there's a give and take and a share. And to me, the word is community. That's a part of building community, is where it's not just a one-way street, but it's a give and take, a back and forth, and a true partnership. And I just love those moments. I think it's what will continue to not only grow that relationship, but the people who are on social media, who are at the bookstore, are going to feel that. And in turn, they're going to replicate that. They're going to want to be a part of that.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you both said. And I think that totally with what we get, folks take for granted, we take for granted, and other folks might really love. There are so many ways to engage influencers. It is not so much that you send a cold email and are like, hello, can I give you $500 and you're going to make an ad for my bookstore? You totally could do that. And I think that there's like validity to that, especially if you're trying to like get into specific groups, which we'll talk about a little bit on the next slide. But I think that for these purposes, if your goal is like volume and to show like that you've got a big community and you want other people to be a part of it, what is going to do that for you? Like when we were opening, we have the Novel Neighbor, which is a general bookstore. And then we opened an ancillary romance only bookstore in our upstairs event space. It's called Open Door Romance. And we did like a preview night for our local influencer community. And so many folks who came through the door were like, I never thought I'd get invited to this because I only have 800 followers or I only have whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's like, but those 800 people live in St. Louis, and those 800, like it matters who you are trying to connect to, not necessarily just sheer volume, which you spoke to beautifully earlier, as well as like a kind of like a fun book club thing. Mm-hmm. Like we have a romance author next month, Cara Bastone. It was falling on the same night that we were supposed to have book club. So what we're doing is before the author event, we're doing a special book club with Cara. And that will get more people into the room for book club. But it also mirrors some of the like meet and greets that we've done with some of our like VIP influencer folks who come to a lot. And then you can reward reward them. Because again, we're not dealing with like Amazon money here. We're not going to pay people the thousands of dollars that often they are worth for their time and effort. But what they get out of your relationships and what they get out of like your friendships and the genuine sense of community that you are able to build because you're indie booksellers and that's what we do. I think that we forget how valuable that is, how valuable to other people our time is. I mean, a lot of folks, I'm sure in DC, like just want to know you and want to be able to access the things that you get to access. And I think sharing the wealth is a really big way to work with influencers. Like it sounds, I don't know, very like fanciful, but I do believe like organic growth is a really good tool for like genuine payout.
Oh, you're spot on. There's two things I was thinking about that, Cassie. So one is those arcs, please, you have no idea. Like I didn't even want to get into like money wasn't even the goal when I became an influencer. I just wanted to meet other book lovers, talk about books and get some free books. And also to not only just get a random book, but Cam, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Like we have the kind of relationship, Cam and I, that like when a book comes her way that either I've talked to her about a book that an anticipated release, or she knows my taste and she's like, hey, Denise, like I have this arc and I know you were really into this author. That means so much and it goes so far. And then also thinking about the influencers, they have lives and connections beyond social media. So for instance, I am really well connected in the education realm and in the Black community here in Pittsburgh. So, yes, I may have a modest following and yes, those folks are loyal and will, really go on the journey with me with a bookstore, but also I'm talking to families and encouraging them to go to these events and they're, watching my channel or they're in conversation with me or I'm teaching their children. So that's really valuable as well to know what those influencers, like what their influence is beyond social media.
Yeah, I think the last thing I would add, again, agree is ask them. Some of the people that you have coming to, I think of some of the folks who are in book clubs, who, come to events and they might have a modest following online. But when Kate comes in for her 5,000th pre-order or whatever, ask them like, hey, what are some of the kinds of things that would make you excited, right? In the book clubs I host, it's kind of a great time to do that recon, which I do. But I think just literally asking them is another step that you can take that I think is, again, the low-hanging fruit that's overlooked. Instead of being like, I have to think of it all myself, just ask them a quick question. And you'd be surprised some of the ideas that you can come up with.
The last thing I'd say, and I know we have to move, is just know your market. So know the people who are like wheeling and dealing in your community. Like we do a lot of e-commerce as well, like folks who don't live in our area. And like if you know the usernames or know the names of the people who are big on the platforms that you are also trying to reach, like slipping in an extra book or slipping in like a personalized note or any of the things that I think like really stretch, again, build that connection. And that is like what we have against Amazon and Barnes & Noble is that you're a real human writing a real note. And so I think that a lot of that does come down to spending the time to know the people who are making the things that you want to connect with.
Mm-hmm. I just add on, you were talking about organic versus, or like organic posts and just feeling very natural. When I first started being a content creator, influencer, whatever, I felt like I had to say yes to everything, even if the relationship may not be as beneficial, or I just didn't even know what to say about the product or the book or whatever. So I guess the idea is to keep it as a long-term relationship, right? To build that trust and that value there. But there might be a time where the relationship's now no longer serving both or one or the other. And it's important to have that conversation, which I had to have with some of the ones that I just didn't feel good about for it wasn't a bad product or anything like that. It just wasn't within my values, or I just moved on and grew from the experience. So, yeah. For sure. So speaking of kind of those expectations and having that conversation, kind of doing like a check-in with those folks, how do we set those expectations? What do we talk about when we're meeting with our creators and kind of figuring out what the plan is?
Yeah, I'll tap into my former assistant principal days, but I think, it's up there again, but like if you're getting into an official partnership, I feel like that's something different to the more organic things that we've mentioned of, reposting or adding it on stories or tagging someone. Like those are the things we're talking about. But if you are getting into a more official, especially recurring partnership, I do feel like clarity up front is really important. And that seems, again, obvious, but I feel like it's always the obvious things that get forgotten. And so I think that, that centers around, like, how are they being compensated? Is it that you are getting access? Access is compensation, but that just needs to be clear. Are they getting, visibility, right? Allowing an influencer who, you've seen what they can do to moderate an event, that could be valuable, right? But you have to have that conversation with them. And so I think that I know it can sometimes be a little uncomfortable when you have to sit down and be like, all right, so you're going to do this, I'm going to do this. It feels a bit more transactional, but if you are trying to embark on a long-term or longer-term recurring relationship, it's important that those expectations exist, and that will definitely help you down the road.
And there are situations where you want a more formal partnership. We've had events where we're like, I know that people will want to go to this, and we are clearly not tapping the community that is most interested here. So I am going to go find a person who I know is in this, and I need to ask, like, hello, I got to make a hard ask. I need you to do this specific post. What do you need in exchange for that? And sometimes people are like, I love you, I'll just do it. And sometimes people are like, oh, this is what I would want. I spoke to a bookseller last night at a dinner. Shout out TJ, who is in like a university town. And she has struggled to make sure that folks know that it's not like a university bookstore and that like it's an all genre, that there's kids books, that it like can appeal to everybody. And so she worked with like the student body and like made specific asks of student influencers. Kind of like, I don't know, when I went to school, there were like Red Bull ambassadors on campus. And I like thought that was so cool. And I think like that's a really great example of like, exactly what you want, who can do it. And that's likely a price point that you could like probably fill if that was a thing you wanted. So adjudicating like what you need, if it's like a soft long-term thing or a very specific thing that you need. Also, like all of our local influencers are in group chats together that I know exist. And so sometimes I will make a hard ask if I need you to drop this in your group chat. Thank you so much. And people mostly do. But I think like the hard ask, you are emboldened to make the hard ask if you know the people that you are asking and you are willing to like fill the needs that they have in exchange.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I don't really have a whole lot to add to that other than like when we think of relationships, whether it's familial, it's romantic, it's a business relationship, communication. It is the foundation. It is key. And I would say these relationships are absolutely no different. So I just love and appreciate all that both of you shared.
You're so sweet.
I was voted friendliest girl in high school.
And I really, really believe it. I'm going to like go back retroactively and vote in your high school election.
I actually just thought, looking at it here, I don't know, again, what are the goals? I think we mentioned that kind of peripherally with expectations, but I think that's also needs to be clear. Like, do you hope to gain followers by this, by doing this? Do you hope to have people attend your event that you have going on? What do you hope to achieve by this collaboration? Because just saying, oh, more people will know about me is not really measurable. So what do you explicitly hope to gain? I think is also really important, because then somebody might say, well, I don't know that I'm the best fit for that. Yeah. Here's somebody I recommend. There you go.
Honestly, I think that question is like, for all social media creation, is like, what is the goal of this?
Yeah, what's the goal? And
who is consuming this? Like, would I like this? If you wouldn't like the thing that you're making, or you wouldn't like the thing that somebody else is making for your bookstore, then probably you should rethink the thing that you're making.
Indeed. That literally happened. I was no longer working with them, but they had reached out and said, yeah, we just want you to post about us everywhere. And I'm like, ... Like, can you expand on that a little bit more? Like, my mind was going all over the place with content ideas, but I'm like, I don't even know this is what they want. Like, we need to clarify and lay that out early on in that. So, Cassie, I think this was your quote.
It probably was. Algorithms. I know it's a scary word, but I feel strongly about the word and we should talk about it. Algorithms today are very interesting in the way that it no longer is just like an amalgamation of like who you follow. Like follower counts are so much less useful as tools today than they used to be. And we talked about this. Unfortunately, some of the things that platforms are prioritizing right now is like incendiary content, like content that will make people talk. A conversation, the longer you spend on the platform, the more money they make off of you. But also, what's cool about the algorithms today is that you don't have to have a huge following to have a huge impact. You can have a TikTok go viral and your TikTok page can have 20 followers. Same with your Instagram and same with the people who are creating content for your store. So the cooler stuff that you give people access to, the more likely the content that they do is going to be better for you. And again, it's all very mutually beneficial. So thinking about like, the numbers game, like what keeps people on a page, like in terms of engagement, like how do I keep people from swiping this video for the first 5 seconds? And what would like working with your local creators in the same veins and the same goals. For us, we do a lot of events. So a lot of it is targeted around that. But also like, I think we're a fun time. So it's also like capitalizing on how fun and silly and like cool your community is.
I love that. You know, what's interesting is when we think of engagement, I think of two examples in my own book influencer journey. One is my BookTube page, my BookTube channel. I have on average, like the videos range in views. My most popular video has nearly 27,000 views and I have about 2,000 subscribers. So there's also videos that have like 100 and some, you know, like you just don't know, but everyone has a chance. So you're right when you're saying it's not your mama's algorithm, because you don't have to just rely on, oh my goodness, I have this many followers. No one else is going to see my content. And also what's interesting is on Instagram, when you have a video, like a reel, for instance, and you may see it has like 100 or 120 hearts. But when you look at the views, there's like, it's like up in the thousands. Not everybody's behavior on social media is determined by them tapping, you know, like, right? They may be watching the same thing over and over and over and actually going to your website. You just don't know. So it's a really interesting experience when you're playing around with that.
Yeah, I would say, again, I feel like you said broken record and I've ended up being the broken record, but
I still think I've said mutually beneficial 4 times.
That's true. I think low-hanging fruit is around reach. If you are working with an author or with publishers, like they want this event to be well attended. They're paying for them to go on the tour. So why not say to the publicist, hey, I want to collab on this post. Right? You're getting an opportunity to be in front of people that might not otherwise be, you know, in your audience. And if, let's say, your goal is just to have people attend a specific event, well, you're getting to more people. Especially, you know, at East City, we do hybrid events for almost all of our events. They're live streamed. So if you get a ticket, you can go online. So we have people tune in from all over. Well, then that reach is important, because if you're in, I don't know, Bangladesh and you want to attend, you might not know that that's an option. But if the author that you really like has collabed with us, then you will know. So I think that it's low-hanging fruit with your procedures as, you know, you're doing events or setting things up to say, hey, in terms of your social media, what can we collab on? What will you repost? And being very explicit about that, because publishers, especially, you know, the larger publishing houses, they have so many books coming out that I don't think that they're always thinking that way. But if you are proactive in saying, hey, no, this is a part of what we do in order to push for this event and having attendance, let's say, that's something that's really easy to do and just add to your procedures as you are setting up events. And I also wanted to say that for some things, consistency really matters. Yes. And I think about that as it relates to, let's say I'll use eCity again. We do a monthly events roundup on Instagram, and it's pinned there. Well, we have plenty of local influencers who like to do a weekly, what's going on in the DMV bookishly, right? Okay, well, they know that if they are looking at our page, I can just snatch that off of there. I might not even tag you, but now somebody's like, oh, this author's coming to East City Bookshop. Let me go check that out. So I think that the consistency piece can be very hard because there's so many things going on always. But if people can reliably know that this information is coming out at a certain time in a certain place, that is very helpful. And I would lastly say that repetition is another thing that is low-hanging fruit, but we feel like, oh, I feel like I've said this. How many times do you say that? I feel like I've said this, but you haven't. Or you can say it more because studies show that you need a certain number of repetitions for it to stick in somebody's brain. So put it in your newsletter, put it online, have your folks repost it. Like you need to put it everywhere.
I love what you said about like making it easier for your local influencers. Did anybody go to the media panel this morning? I thought it was wonderful. And I think one of the things that they touched on is like your job is to make it as easy for the journalists to cover the thing as possible, because journalists are doing a million things and so are your influencers. And so I think not only is it like making the access to the information as easy as possible, which we pin them as well, because I learned about it from Parnassus last year and it's been the thing that changed our social media the most this year. I would also say, when you put on an event, think about the thing that would make it the best content. Like if that is like a photographable moment, we like take like a big audience shot at the end of like any big event, and then we'll repost it and say tag yourselves, or we'll say like find yourself in the photo, reshare it to your stories. That games the algorithm to put it into more people's like feeds. Again, not your mom's algorithm. I think also like the more that you can create moments that are memorable for people and that they also want to recreate. If you do a signing line, if you do like a book bedazzling night, like having like a photo specific area, having like, if you spring for like the slightly cuter glass so that people take videos of themselves clinking their glasses. Like when we work with event spaces, we work with folks who are also going to make those moments, because that's often what they're looking to romanticize their lives. They're looking to have a nice time. And we want to foster that nice time. We would love to be a part of your day.
Can I just add one more thing to that, which is like, whatever you might have something that's sort of your niche, like the thing that people might think of when they think of you, and totally lean into that. I think for East City, one of the things is dogs. Like it's a dog friendly store. You can come in with your pet, and inside we have like a dog wall, like Polaroids everywhere of dogs that have come in. And it's just so wild to me. Like whenever it's amazing. But whenever people will come in, I'll be on shift and folks are like, oh yeah, you guys have the dog wall. I'm like, we have books too. But like, you're being known for a thing. And that's something that, if people like, as you said, people want to romanticize their life. Oh yeah, I'm going to repost that that's cute. Look at that.
Yeah, we have a photo area novel and a photo area in Open Door.
Love it. Oh, this is great. I mean, I'm just smiling at the opportunities. I really am excited for every bookseller here, because I cannot emphasize enough. There's so many opportunities for collaboration and partnership. And this mutually agreed upon journey is one that can lead to so many amazing things. And I just think that the more you engage authentically, the more of those opportunities can present themselves. So I don't really have much to add. You guys have got it going on.
Oh, wait, I have one more thing I remembered. I'm sorry. Okay. In terms of the algorithm, jumping on to trends seems obvious, again, low-hanging fruit, but things that are going on so that you might pop up in a place that seems unlikely. So for example, March is March Madness. Well, East City Bookshop has Bark Madness. And so we have like brackets essentially for like dogs that come in and people can vote. And yeah, sure, you might not be into dogs, whoever you are, but if you're into basketball and you happen to see, okay, March Madness, and they're like, Bark Madness, what's that? Like it's like being caught up in the thing that already exists and you're just kind of like on the coattails of it. That's another thing that I would say.
And even if it's like we got heated rivalry candles in. And if I see a local influencer posting about heated rivalry and I DM them and say, girl, we just got the best candles in. They say, oh, I'm going to come take a picture of them. And then they make a whole video about them coming in and seeing the candles. And isn't that lovely for us? Because now we have no more candles. It's good.
Yes. Sometimes, when you think of your mom's algorithm, I think there was a time where people felt like they had to stay in this lane. Like I'm only driving my audience to book lovers, forgetting the fact that we are layered human beings and there's intersections, right? So maybe you're going to find a book lover who is also a basketball lover, and maybe on their feed, like we all know, like maybe they are mainly looking at basketball stuff in their social media and not so much book stuff. And so there you are with the March Madness. So I think it's really neat to think about those things again in authentic ways, but also like just having this overall awareness of what's going on in your community, in society. I'm thinking Bridgerton and different things that like are popping off that find fun, unique ways to make it speak to your store in an authentic way and connect with those people that you want to connect with.
Yeah, make the zeitgeist work for you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that leads us into kind of like the call to action. What's next with finding these creators and what do you do now? But yeah, anything to add here? Anything last minute?
No. I think that, I this is generally one of the joys of my job. Like this is one of the things that is the most fun. Because for me, like building the relationships and sharing the love of reading and all of those things, like if they feel authentic and organic, then I'm having a nice time. And I want everyone to think about having a nice time in a way that is also monetarily beneficial to you, because I don't think that those two things are mutually exclusive. It is not like foo-foo work to build your community and invest in it. And there are influencers everywhere, and everybody is, especially in this moment, everybody is trying to build their own brand, and we can facilitate that.
Yes, and book influencers, we want so desperately to connect with indie bookstores. Yes. I am so ecstatic that the trend is swaying in your direction, right? Like people are tired of like the Amazons of the world and just really want to have those connections to go into a bookstore that doesn't look like the same bookstore chain that they go to in any city, that they could just come to any city and be at the same bookstore. They really want to connect. And so I think it's just a matter of really being aware of who's influencing in your area and making those connections. I know, for instance, here in Pittsburgh, there's the Pittsburgh Festival of Books. And, you've got booksellers, book lovers, book influencers. You've got all the people there for a good time and in a shared experience. So I just think it's one of those things where I'm so thankful that the trend is really swinging in your direction.
Yeah. Again, co-sign on those things. I think you have the opportunity to define what an influencer is for you and and who a creator is for you. And you have those people in your community. So thinking creatively about how you engage them. Again, I'm always about how can I get the biggest bang for the least amount of effort, right? Because that's the economy that we have to work in a bookstore. And I think just looking at who you have and how you can make those connections work for you and not making a creator or an influencer, those words be prescriptive, thinking outside of the box, essentially.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. We're going to move into Q&A, Emma. We'll be walking around with the mic, so please wait to ask your question until you have the mic, and then we'll give the best response we can. Yeah.
And I will try.
Good times.
Okay, kind of loud. I just wanted to say, when you guys were talking about hashtags, it's also really good for everyone in the room to know that Adam Mosseri, the CEO of Instagram currently, goes on live every single Friday, and he explains the updates within the app in a way that small businesses and entrepreneurs can just get that tidbit of information without feeling overwhelmed. He caps it at about an hour. And he did say the most recent one 2 weeks ago that the hashtag is pretty much gone. And he said that if your visuals and the things that you're putting in the reels or in the carousel posts, if they don't do the work for you alongside the keywords in your caption, it's not going anywhere. So hashtags are, he actually said, people's like last ditch effort to just try to get noticed in the zeitgeist, but that those days are gone. So I just thought it was super interesting that y'all had mentioned that it's not going to go anywhere. You really have to rely on those keywords. So thank you.
Hi. 2 questions. I own a romance bookstore, so it's obviously a very like niche community, and we're the only one in Chicago. For something like interacting with creators, is it like, does it make sense to kind of do like a shout out where it's like, hey, we're kind of like, I hate to say building a list, but like we'd love to have your guys' like information and stuff like that, or is that kind of frowned upon? And then the second question is, as you guys as influencers, like if I were to say, hey, I'm hosting like a content creator night where you'll come, we'll talk about the store, we'll put together like little goodie bags. Is that, I think that's a great thing. But like, is that something that's like beneficial, or like what's the line between it feeling like maybe predatory of like me asking those things?
Good question.
I feel like predatory comes in when they're not getting anything back.
Yeah. There you go.
Like, I think like that's what it is. So I feel like that sounds fine. I think that goes to the clear expectations thing. You're saying like, hey, I would say you could do a night like that. And sometimes it's just like, oh, you're here. That's great. But I think being clear about what you hope they will do is an important piece for you. Because again, is it that you want more people to follow your store? Is you want more people to come in? You want them to come to an event? Like, what do you hope to get by doing that night? You have to be really clear in your mind about that.
Yeah, I don't think predatory is. No, I think that you're pretty in the clear. Like we've done those before, and we've given them wine and we've given them an arc, and it's been a nice time.
Yeah.
But I also think like if you need like a specific thing, we also DM people and we're like, hey, love you. I wanted to make sure that you saw this because obviously you can be busy, but I wanted to make sure that you saw this because it was like right up your alley. And I know that you bought the last 2 Kara books and I would hate for you to miss it. Love you. Bye. And that's also been totally fine. So like, I think that a lot of times that, again, you're cutting through algorithms. I think most of the time people are like thrilled that you know who they are. So you can I have an internal list that I add to. I don't have people sign up for it, but I kind of like the idea of it. Like, I don't think anybody would be upset by that. And especially the romance community.
Yes,
yeah.
You had me.
Does it feel predatory if I'm like, hey, sign up for this and like we'd love to like connect with you guys that way? So I think
no.
I love the way you were talking about like having an event, right? Or some kind of relational like exchange and being clear in what to expect, like to have it's like saying, I see you, I celebrate you. Do you see me? This is what I'm up to. And we could do something together. Just a very relational type of reach out, I think is really good.
Hello. As a former bookstagrammer in my past, and using that as a tool to break into the the bookseller industry, I'm curious to know, I got my start from basically an ARC program. Mm-hmm. So starting out something like that in the store, I think could be useful to me. But do you think more so like to put things on paper, like having an unpaid or like a paid contract like laid out, would that be a good idea as well with influencers?
I haven't done a contract because I haven't wanted to get like boxed into a specific thing. I think the second you are in like a paid partnership, you're also kind of responsible for the influencers that you're working with in a way that feels nerve-wracking to me as a smaller business. But I think that if you were paying a person to do this thing because you needed this specific thing done, yeah, I think that totally makes sense. I just wouldn't do it for our casual community. A, there's too many people in it. And B, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think for most of us, when we really sit back and think about what we need out of this, it doesn't dictate that. for most situations. Obviously, I can't. There's always an exception. I can't speak for everything, but I don't feel like that's the type of thing that most of us need.
I was curious about the etiquette of if someone's inviting you to collaborate, but you feel like it's not on brand, or you just don't like it and you don't want it to be on your grid.
I love to decline a collab post.
Great question.
I really, unless somebody has made a beautiful thing and I have nothing planned for that day, I don't accept collab posts. I'll reshare pretty much anything to the stories, especially if it's like nice or favorable. But so often people will be like, I stepped into your store, collab post. And I think cold collabing is like not cool. I don't like it. Though I've done it to authors before. Promoting their event to sell their book.
Yeah, I'm team no on that. Like, I think you were just asking about like a contract or thing. I think that I feel like that's against the norms to be like, I want to be on your official page without any type of communication about it. So I don't think that that's weird to just not accept it, which is what I don't even feel like we necessarily decline. I can't think of us really doing that, but just not like they can stay in the ether, but I'm not going to just accept that. It's an interesting question though, because I'm thinking, moving forward, as you continue to collaborate with influencers or creators, should there be some type of communication about that? Like, hey, I know that, maybe collaborating, it might be really helpful, but we are the ones who will initiate a collab, or just saying something like that might be something to think about. I'm thinking about it now that you've asked it, but generally it'll stay out in the ether. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, a thanks but no thanks in the sense that leaves the door open potentially, but just establishing like, oh, I noticed this. I'm so happy you visited my store. Typically, I only do the collab posts with influencers I've formed a relationship with. This is my bookstore. If you would be interested, we can have a conversation. Unless I would also encourage to go ahead and look and see what is going on that person's page, because don't waste your time. If it's like somebody that is not aligned with you, then you could just be like, thanks, but no thanks.
Well, and also we have to plan so much content. Like there's so much to communicate that often like a collab post is lovely. And what they're trying to communicate is that they like you. And I would love to reshare that to my stories because I like you too. I just have to do like 4 things on my grid. And unfortunately, Instagram only wants me to do one of them.
I see 2 more.
Hi, I had a question, and I don't know if you all have insight on this. It also wasn't in the media marketing thing. It's a place I'm trying to figure out how to access, but podcasters.
Oh, I do that.
Just like, what is it a similar approach? Any like examples of how to do that, of becoming kind of pitching yourself as a guest, or maybe pitching something that you're bringing to the store?
Yeah, I think that my first advice is always to like listen to the thing that you think you're most interested in doing. So we hosted like a live show of Fated Mates, which is Jen Prokop and Sarah McLean's like romance podcast. And we also do like have a relationship with the Currently Reading podcast where we do their indie press list 1 or 2 times a year. And in Fated Mates situation, we pursued that hard. And in the other situation, they pursued us. And so I think like building your own socials and making like yourself also kind of like a bookish influencer. Like I consider we have a bookstore, and also our account is also kind of an influencer account. Like we are telling people what we like to read, and if that's not influencing them, I don't know what is. So I think knowing the market, knowing what you want, but often like we get podcast requests, and also we have asked like, oh my gosh, we love this. If there's like ever a thing that you need an indie bookstore for on, like, please know I'm an avid listener and would love. And in the same way that I'm never mad when somebody reaches out to me like that, I don't think that they would be mad if you reached out.
I think there's universal relational like authenticity, all the things that we named are still at play with that. I had a mom podcast way back in 2014 that was like number 1. It was like huge. And now I'm doing podcasts in the bookish world. And I just think it's really, really important to see that it's really universal. It's all about having a relationship, if you don't just make it generic and have actually listened to an episode and is like, hey, I listened to this, I really enjoy it, and here's why it made me think that we could be good partners. I think that is the key.
The only thing I would add is sometimes positioning a person, maybe an employee, as opposed to the store, like as an entity, is helpful. So I think about our store buyer, Emily Summer, who is like incredible, and she's the sauce, right? So like her expertise is interesting and maybe valuable to a podcast. So like pitching her might be a better sell for a certain podcast than saying East City Bookshop, right? Then they're like, well, I don't care about that, but Emily, wow. Like, so I think just thinking about the approach, like tailoring the approach, is really helpful. And I know we were close on time, so there was another question.
I was just going to comment to when we were talking about the contract side of it and everything, we have a physical bookstore, but we also have a book subscription box. And with that, we do have ambassadors. So the application, quote unquote, is just like, hi, who are you? Tell us your favorite book. Have you ordered from us before? Yes, no.
Yes.
Anything else you want to tell us? Thank you. And obviously we get more applications than we have influencer spots for, but just having a list of people who think they are a good fit for your brand. Like I go through and I follow about 50% of it. If I read it and I'm like, you're a maybe, I'll follow you. And then that way we already have people who are excited about us. So just keeping track of people who have reached out to you, even if you don't have a current opportunity for them, has been really helpful. And the other thing is I make the group chats with all the influencers for our store. Because
I own the group chats.
I made the group chat, and I'm like, this is a great place to build community and reshare posts. And if like the day before an announcement's going to drop, I go, hey, I wanted to let you all know first here. And that just does so much, because then they're like, I'm on the in.
Yeah.
But I think just like knowing they're as excited for this as you are and treating it that way makes such a big difference. And we have a contract, quote unquote, but it's a Google form and they just type their name to say they understand what's going to happen. It's not.
I love that first one, especially. We have like a books club group chat that we drop things into, but
is this on? Oh, hi. I was just wondering, from like the sort of like social media management part of it, if you have any tips for like planning content, or if you have any like apps or certain things, because I sort of wear a lot of hats and I end up doing the social media thing, but the bookstore owner also wants to take a look at sort of our plan for that. So I was wondering if you had any tips on that.
yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I made my own. So I've used like the Canva content creator and I didn't love it, and I've used Hootsuite and I didn't love it, and I eventually was like, I don't want to pay for all of these things. So I built myself an Excel sheet, and it basically tracks what content is currently in progress, the day that it's supposed to be posted, any links to where it would be. So if somebody wanted to see it, they could. And then I also built myself a calendar into that, and that is shared. I have like one other person who helps with social media, but I also put our events team on it so that they don't have to wonder when a thing is going up. And it's been extremely valuable to me. And I'm happy to, you can just have it if you want to talk to me afterwards.
Yeah. Cosign. Only thing I would say is like we have a team of folks who all wear different hats, but also are all on this team.
Yeah.
And so, we do have a schedule of things that we're going to post. Everybody has the login, so they can post it. And, we can divvy it up that way.
I'm terrified of giving people their login.
Yeah. Oh goodness, I've tried so many things. I've tried, because I've been doing social media influencing things since I was a mom blogger, podcaster, Hootsuite, all the things. I think you keep it simple and you do what works for you in terms of like the software. I love the idea of Excel or like a Google Sheets. It doesn't have to. Okay, I hope there's not any playful here. Like, you don't have to pay necessarily. Like, I'm just thinking if you're, depending on where you are in your business, you really don't, you'll get swamped with like, you need this and you need that. And you really don't. And the best resource is someone like this. You check with somebody. It's what I say in education, ask 3 before me, hey, what are you using? What are you doing? What works for you? And, to start off in a way that's accessible and doable for you so that you don't then drop off doing it. You don't want to start this thing that's so verbose that you're going to be like, I can't even deal with this.
I agree.
Consistency, king.
Yep.
Yeah.
A thing you can handle. All right, that wraps up our session. Thank you all so much. We'll be around. If you have any other questions, please fill out the survey. I also forgot to mention thank you to Ingram for sponsoring the event. We joked about this and I ended up forgetting about it. So yes, thank you all so much.
Yay.
I can't believe that happened.
It's all good. It did end up happening. Yay, Ingram.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA site at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!